Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. The audacity of this woman. Some people need a good slap in the face sometimes. Is being a Karen a mental disability? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Karen won't get out of the handicapped parking space and gets angry when she gets blocked in. Here I was, thinking that I'd run out of entitled people stories that don't involve my mother, but I'm back with yet another one. This happened a few days ago. I'm recovering from abdominal surgery 12 days prior to when this happened. I was finally feeling up for shopping, and there were things I needed from the hardware store. I'm a 30-year-old disabled female in a wheelchair, incomplete quadriplegic, and I don't have a car, so I got a taxi there. One with a ramp in the back so I don't have to get out of my wheelchair. Mr. Taxi Man, who we'll call Bruce, dropped me off and I went to do my thing. Nothing out of the ordinary. When I finished my shopping, I called to get the taxi back. It'd be a 15-minute wait, but it was such a nice day that I didn't mind waiting outside. As I was waiting, I noticed that someone was parked in the disabled parking space, but there was no disabled tags on the windscreen. Annoying, but honestly, I don't care at that point. I just wanted to get home. About 10 minutes later, I saw a middle-aged woman walk out of the store and went straight to that car. She opened the boot, put her shopping in, and went around to the driver's side, but instead of getting in, though, she got out a cigarette and started looking at her phone. A few minutes after that, I saw my taxi arrive. Bruce, being the polite and patient man he is, waited for the woman to drive out of the car space. Karen knew he was waiting for her, and she was damn sure she was parking illegally in the disabled parking space. But do you think she cared? She finished her cigarette and got into her car. We waited, and waited, then waited some more, until Bruce got rightly fed up and parked the taxi directly behind Karen's car, blocking her in. This is when things got interesting. Karen began to honk her horn repetitively for a few seconds before she got out of her car. Karen, what the bloody heck you think you're doing? You blocked me in. Bruce, in a mocking apologetic tone, I'm very sorry, ma'am, but I needed the car space and you seem to want to stay there. Just thought I'd do you a favor. Now, if you don't mind, I have a job to do. Bruce gestured in my direction as I gave Karen a big smile. I hate confrontation, so I appreciated Bruce doing it for me. Bruce got into the car and fastened me and my wheelchair into place, all the while with Karen yelling profanities and threatening to call the police. If it were any other day, I would have been happy to call the police so Karen would get a fine. But I just wanted to go home. It only took a few minutes before I was secured in the car and we left. But I made sure to give Karen a smile and a one-finger salute through the window as we were leaving, which made the encounter all the more sweeter. And our second story. I don't care if it's your mother's wedding ring. My son wants it. So almost 4 years ago, my family and I were invited to my father's friend's second wedding. I was, and still am, a really shy person, so I decided to stick around the few people I knew. Among these there was that wonderfully sweet couple around their 50s. I'll call them Melanie and Henry. Important for later is that they've tried to have a child for years, but eventually gave up after having 2 stillborns in a row. After almost a decade, they figured out to adopt one. So they ended up adopting a couple of twins, Ax and AJ, 2 years before that wedding. I'm pretty close with them, so I naturally seek out for them as soon as we get to the restaurant. After what I remember as an eternity of wandering between people I don't know, not my favorite activity, I spotted Melanie and asked her where the twins were, so she guided me to the playground. As we got there, we heard a loud scream. Now, Melanie is understandably a little overprotective towards the twins, so she instantly walks towards the sound. When we got there, the entitled mother, EM, was already screaming at Ax, while AJ was trying to defend his brother. EM, how dare you touch my boy? Ax, but ma'am. EM, shut up. You have to apologize now. Melanie, what's going on here? EM, that brat have attacked my son. AJ, that kid had stolen Ax's necklace. We just wanted it back. Ax, I asked him to give it back, but he won't. Ax was visibly frustrated by that situation, while the entitled kid, EK, had now stopped crying and was stomping his feet, yelling, "It's mine! I want it!" Now, that wasn't just a necklace for the twins, since they wear their biological parents' wedding rings as a charm on 2 identical golden necklaces. AJ has the father's ring, while Ax has the mother's. So Melanie proceeded to explain that. Melanie, I'm sorry if Axe has been rude, but that necklace is actually really important for him, and EM, I don't care. My son wanted it, so he should have given it to him. The twins started to shield themselves behind their mother, shocked and on the verge of tears. Melanie, I'm sorry? EM, my son wanted it. That kid's just being selfish. It's just a necklace. He wouldn't die without it. Melanie, starting to be irritated. Look, ma'am, you either return that necklace or I take it back. At this point, EM was furious, and the noise was starting to attract other guests from the main room towards us. EM, who do you think you are? Don't you dare touch my boy. Melanie, I'm their mother. These are my sons. EM, your sons? You don't look like them. Melanie, irritated. I've adopted them. Melanie then tried to ask again for the necklace to be returned before EM stops her, saying, EM, oh, I see. You aren't a real mother then. Melanie's jaw drops, just staring at EM in shock. Everyone stays silent for a couple seconds while EM has a smug smile on her face. Melanie goes nuts. She heads to EK, who was roughly playing with the necklace, slaps his hands, and gives it back to Axe. EM, how dare you? Melanie starts yelling at her with a rage I've never seen either before or after that, never letting the EM talk, and for so long her voice starts to fade out. I'm pretty sure I've never heard that many insults at one time. The staff eventually shows up, escorting both of them out of the restaurant, and both were let come back inside only after they calmed down. After the shock faded out, the twins started crying. The poor boys were thinking that their mother was so upset because of them and were obviously upset about EM's words. It took me and Henry half an hour to calm them down, and Melanie looked spent the whole evening. They decided not to tell the bride or groom about this until a week later in order to avoid ruining their day. I've never seen the twins wear their necklaces above their shirts since then. And our next story. Your only working area would be the changing room. Now, this happened a few years back, but I still remember it clear as day, as it was the first time I caused this much trouble during work. I was a part-time retail assistant for a retail clothing brand, a rather popular one at that, but I won't state its brand name here. During the holidays, it was quite common for customers to ask for different sizes for the items on display. The usual protocol would be for me to call for someone to take the item, go to the cashier, and use the machine there to check whether the item had that particular size or if any of the other local stores around this area had them. Note that there was a rule that there had to be someone working in the changing room at all times. As an employee that have worked there for a month, I already knew that most of the time no one really followed this rule as we were understaffed. So when someone asked for me to check for the size they wanted on the item, I would leave the changing room and take no more than a minute to check it. The customers didn't mind, nor did my other colleagues. The problem only came when the HR team came to do a sudden check the other day to ensure that we were working as per their protocols. As luck had it, they saw me leaving the changing room whenever someone asked if an item had a particular size and told my head manager that I was breaking the protocol literally every 5 minutes. My head manager was not happy. She paged for me and told me your only working area would be the changing room. Do not move from that area. I couldn't even explain myself. All right then. For the next few weeks or so, customers were not attended to because I could only answer, "Sorry, I can't check for you." This also meant that close to no one of the customers were buying anything. Head manager didn't notice because she was always busy in the back room doing admin work and was never on the ground floor. Earnings report came for the month, and my God, there were only $2,000 worth of sales completed. This was 5 times less than the revenue we usually generated. We managed to get the best performing local store award from the bottom. The head manager was unable to explain herself and tried to compensate by hiring new employees. This did not work since I couldn't leave my post, and none of the other employees dared to leave their post as well, which also meant none of them knew how to use the machine to check for sizes. They were all religiously folding and refolding clothes again to look useful, but no actual sales were being made. Well, it didn't come as a surprise when the head manager was fired and HR decided that having an employee staying in the changing room at all times was a stupid rule as well. It's amazing how upper management developed these amazing protocols without thinking about how it would actually work at the money-making end of the business. And our last story. Go ahead, eat my Chex Mix. At my job, most workers, myself included, keep our snacks in the break room fridge. I stacked my bag of Chex Mix on top of my lunch. Well, about a month ago, a new hire, we'll call her Amy, kept stealing my Chex Mix. After a couple of days of this happening, I decided class action petty revenge needed to be taken. I bought a bag of chocolate Chex Mix the next day to see if she would take that as well. She did. After work that day, I bought another bag of chocolate Chex Mix and some cat food. I emptied out all the Chex Mix, poured in some cat food in a bowl, covered it in chocolate, and put it back in the Chex Mix bag. The next day at work, I saw her go into the break room. I saw her conceal the bag and make her way back to her desk. She opened it and, without looking at the contents, scooped up a giant handful of my special revenge mix and began to chew. I sat at my desk sipping a coffee with a crap-eating grin, knowing what would happen next. Her eyes widened and her face drained of color. She tripped over her chair, spitting out the cat food and chocolate as she frantically stumbled, trying to keep her balance. She got up and hurried towards the bathroom, looking like she was about to cry. I'd never felt so damn good. Edit. Here's what happened after the great cat mix revenge. Amy never took my Chex Mix again. She'd been taking other people's snacks as well, so she was a known food thief at the office. But since she's quite physically attractive, nobody really called her out on it. I never mentioned to anyone working there I did it. I kept it to myself. I've only ever been seen at the office eating original Chex Mix, none of the spin-off flavors, so nobody thought it was me. The discussion about her freakout reached the conclusion she was either sick or had an allergic reaction. To this day, I enjoy sitting at my desk with a bag of original Chex Mix in plain sight, sipping my coffee with that same crap-eating grin whenever she looks my way. There's no doubt in my mind she knows I did it. Well done. Mean enough to get you a great sense of revenge, but not so cruel as to get yourself fired. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.